Isn't that, let's just stop the share there for a minute. Isn't that just the most appropriate music? That is, of course, Seal saying it is amazing. And we have to say that it is seriously amazing. Oh, someone isn't muted there. I'm not sure who that is. But anyway, it seriously is amazing to see you all wherever it is that you are. We are absolutely thrilled, stoked, I think we could say, to actually see you wherever it is you're from, because this is one of those rare events. In fact, it's only the second one. We did one this morning, but we are all about today that you go, oh, I'm going to spoil everything there. Look at that. We are about looking at this, and we're going to be looking behind the scenes, because as you may be able to see on your screen, probably not, we have got three of the amazing people who contributed to that book, and I'll be introducing you to them in just a moment. But before we get to them, we need to say, remember that it did say just a minute ago that it was amazing. Let me tell you, remember that on that song, what amazing actually means in the context of where we are today. Look at this. Let me show you this. This is kind of cool. Have a look. I'll just play this for you. Look at this. Amazon hot new releases. And so the people that you are about to meet can say, I'm not just a best-selling author, I'm actually a hot release author. And how about this? If we just blank out some of the things, look at that. There is Legacy, the Kindle version, #1. There it is, #1 in business ethics. And it's also, these are, by the way, from the Australian store. #4. Look at that. The paperback is #4, even though it's actually difficult to find on Amazon. It's #4. And earlier this morning we took a look. By the way, I'm not sure what you think about that, but I go, yippee, very thrilled, right? And then look at this one. This is now not just what is this one? This is, I think, in the United Kingdom, is it, or somewhere, or is it Amazon totally? I'm not sure where it is, but what I am sure of, look at that, #1 bestseller of all the books up there as well. So you are in for a very exciting time, and a very important time as well. You're going to be getting some seriously great information today that is you could call it game-changing, if not life-changing. So we want to find out a little bit about you, though, and we want to know these things. So jump up on the chat, if you will. Now, you'll notice there are 3 things that we're asking you, notably, where are you now, what's the weather like, and what's the most important SDG to you? What is that? And you can say all of them, whatever it is. Go on, jump up on the chat, let us know. Oh, lots of chat coming in. And by the way, when you put things on the chat, make sure you use the drop-down box, which is saying to everyone, not just to the panelists. There you go, like that there. That's what you want to see on that drop-down box, right? All panelists and attendees. So that make sure everybody can see where you are. And I know Masami will be monitoring that chat and sort of saying hi to you as well. People from Germany, people from Australia, people from around the world. And wherever you are from, we are just thrilled. Let me just take a quick look. Oh, look at that. Where are we going? Let's see here. Whoa, very, very cool. Sunny Nottingham. Stacey. Oh, Stacey, it's raining, she says, in London. Stacey, great to have you here and great to have you in the book as well. Goal number 10. Yes, we know about that. Oh, Paul is here as well. And Valerie and Shannon. Oh, my goodness, look at that, Sammy. Shannon is there from Perth. Awesome to see you. So wherever you are from, it is just awesome to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Let's take a look at what we're actually going to do. And well done on getting the all panelists and attendees thing going as well. So let's take a look at what we're going to do. This is the familiar or the most usual way in which we see the global goals. These 17 things that were launched on the 23rd of September 2015, which are not just a pathway for business, but a pathway for humanity. And we are seeing sort of hockey stick acceptance now of these global goals, because these are things that you and I, these 17 targets that you and I have to achieve by 2030. Now, one thing that's happened recently, we got a lot of commentary on this just to help us connect right here, is that sometimes you look at those 17 and it's a bit hard to grab hold of. But what if you followed the lead of Temasek here in Singapore and you broke it down to A, B, C? See that? And you can see what the A's and the B's stand for: active economy, beautiful society, and clean earth. And you just rearrange the goals very slightly, and then you can put some interesting things in here. Look at that. Productive jobs, sustainable cities, fulfilling lives. That is what we're all about this afternoon, or this morning if you're in the United Kingdom. Resilient individuals, inclusive communities. That's what a beautiful society is, a just society. And Susie is going to be talking about that as well. And then clean earth. Who wouldn't want fresh air, clean water, and a cool world? So that is a really, really interesting way of connecting to the global goals. And of course, what we're about to do in this launch of Legacy is connect you even more. Not just you, but the people close to you as well. And by the way, we're not talking about all of the goals today. You can see we're just talking about these 4. We have, and in fact, let me tell you how we're talking about this. Ms. Ami, is that you that I can hear, or there we go. So who are you going to be meeting? Well, you're going to be meeting currently in France. You're going to be meeting Alexander, who's going to be talking, as you can see, about Goal 11. Brian, he said he's in heaven, which translates to the Gold Coast in Australia. Brian's going to be talking about something dear to his heart. And Susie is going to be talking about something that absolutely drives her as well. So you're going to see a lot of passion coming out. But to put this in perspective, what we love you to do is come with us just for 3 minutes or so and have a look at this. This puts it all in perspective for
Hello and thank you for being here. I'm Paul Dunn and I'm the chairman of the Global Giving Initiative, B1G1, Business for Good. My purpose here is to introduce you to an extraordinary book. It's called Legacy. And it's not just about leaving one. It's about really living one and leveraging your legacy as well. And central to doing that are these: the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 17 critical targets that we have to achieve by 2030. And in this fascinating book, you're guided through those goals by 52 amazing change makers from around the world. Come and meet some of them right now.
I am committed to us creating sustainability in all aspects of our lives, our businesses, and our world.
We all have the capability of helping someone in need.
Every single business can change the world, regardless of what they do, where they're based, how big they are.
And just by giving a small amount on a regular basis, we really can create amazing impacts in the lives of others.
To end hunger.
To improve the quality of education.
No poverty.
Good health and well-being for all at any age and any stage of life.
Gender equality.
I want to see a world where pay equality for women is no longer an agenda.
Life underwater.
Life on land.
Sustainable cities.
Peace, justice, and strong institutions.
We have a wonderful opportunity right now in this world with the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 goals with a simple objective to irreversibly eradicate poverty and do that in a more sustainable and equitable way.
I believe that it is going to take the joint efforts of businesses, nonprofits, and governmental entities to do something about ending poverty and helping protect our natural environment.
When that happens, we will easily achieve every single one of the UN Global Goals.
If we all work together to make this a better world for everyone, including the plants and animals, what an amazing world we will live in.
This really is a book that helps you, your family, your business, your friends, and your community make a difference. Not just to you, but to people we'll never even get to meet. The new Legacy book really is a must-read. Be sure to get yours as soon as you can.
That video really expresses it very well and expresses some deepness, about some depth, if you will, about where we're going on this launch. And one of the great things, of course, is we're going to meet some great people along the way. So let me just set that up, because I want you to meet our first author. This is kind of like going behind the scenes, if you will, into what makes a book come alive. And you're going to get some great thoughts
right off the bat, because we are going to be talking with Alexander, and let me show you what we're going to be talking with Alexander about. So there are the 17 goals rearranged, but the one that Alexander is particularly passionate about is goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. And you might want to know just a little bit about Alexander, but ahead of that, here are some of the challenges. You can see them up there. These are some of the things we talk about in the book, but not just the challenges, but how we overcome them. Look at those numbers, just amazing. 90% of urban dwellers breathing unsafe air, and so on and so forth. And those are some of the reasons that makes the man you are about to meet so passionate about what he does. You can see some of the amazing things he does. We have some mutual friends. When you notice there that he works with Ashoka, as a partner with Ashoka. That's the great Bill Drayton, the legendary Bill Drayton, who we know as well. Alexander, we just had a very quick meeting. I know you've been spending time with Masami, but we are just absolutely thrilled that you're here. One of the things that fascinates me about the whole thing around sustainable cities is, how could you say, why, because people don't often think of cities. So why do you see cities as so central to us attaining the SDGs?
Well, look, Paul, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. It's a genuine privilege to be here, and a hard act to follow, you and that extraordinary video which you just shared. So why are cities so important for the SDGs? Well, for me, they're the melting pot within which either we achieve them or we don't achieve them. More than 1 in 2 of us live in cities today. And as those statistics just showed, many of the SDGs, which are symptoms for me of a greater imbalance, are most prominent in cities. High levels of pollution, extreme poverty, problems with hunger, problems with education, problems with health. So they are both the challenge, but they can also be the panacea. So let's explore why they are, at least I believe, part of the problem. So I believe that what happens in cities is we end up becoming disconnected from our true nature. You'll see behind me a couple of paintings. I actually paint in extreme locations all over the world. And I've done that to explore what it takes to be creative everywhere. Now, I've also painted in cities, and I find it really, really hard to paint in cities. Why? Because cities have straight lines. Buildings are straight. And the natural flow of energy does not flow through cities. It flows through nature. So what happens in cities is that we get blocked. And when I ask people the question, when do your best ideas come to you? When I coach people, when I coach individuals, teams, organizations, what I find most is that people will say, when I get out of my head. And one of the examples of that is when I'm walking in nature. So what ends up happening in cities is we disconnect ourselves from our true nature. We get drawn to the big lights, to the big city, and we search out there to find the solutions. We go out into the world, we get the car, we get the house, we get the family, we get the lifestyle, and then we go, and what next? What comes after that? And what I've realized is that the city is both the problem and also the panacea. So as the nation state starts to collapse, and increasingly is collapsing, and we can see that all over the world, what is emerging is a more organic network. And of course, cities are the hubs in that network. They're the central hubs. So if we can unlock the power of cities, we have the potential to realize the SDGs. But how does that happen? Well, is it going to be the local governments, the mayors in those cities who do that? Yes, and we're working with some of those. We're working with an organization which coordinates 16 UN agencies in order to make cities smart cities. And yes, you need to have that high level, but actually it also starts with organizations, small organizations, big organizations. And what we're seeing is that the small organizations are moving faster than the big organizations, because not only is climate change and pollution and all of those other things a big threat, it's also an enormous business opportunity. And where do businesses start? Businesses start with each and every one of us. So what's important for me is actually we unlock the power of the individual to tap into their true nature, so that in these cities which naturally disconnect us from that, we actually unlock our full potential. How do we do that? Well, we help people to articulate their individual purpose, their collective purpose, a purpose at the level of the city, so that they unlock the power of the city. And what's the easiest way to do that? It's to talk about their legacy, not just their legacy in the future, not just what they're going to create in the future, but bringing, as you correctly say, bringing the future into the present. So it's not just something that you leave behind, but it's something you are creating right now. If our legacy is up here, most of us are drifting through life slowly like this, and we miss out on this big gap. Rather, what we need to do is say, this is where we're trying to get to, and chart a path like this, starting right now. And so those are some of the things that we'll be launching in the next couple of months, some apps around legacy and a personal purpose app. And if you're interested in testing the personal purpose app, I'm delighted to say the version is live right now, and you can go to it at personalpurpose.life. And I'll drop that into the chat.
Yeah, drop it into the chat, and thank you, Alexander. That's amazing, you know, because as you say, I mean, we're right here in Singapore, and you talked about the straight lines and the differences. Really fascinating that we, as a result of that, when we walk into cities tonight, as a result of your observations, we might have a different set of eyes. And of course, in legacy, where we get to see all of the things that you've been talking about, that's really going to come alive. What an extraordinary start for our time together today. And Masami and I were just in Seattle meeting with some mayors as well. And you're absolutely right about the mayors getting closer and closer and closer, because cities disconnect, and what we want them to do is to connect. Fantastic. So, Alexander, thank you so much for that. Let's do this. Let's flip across to, well, this is a big flip now, from France to what Brian calls heaven. So let's take a look at where that is and where Brian is. And again, to focus us in, let me just share my screen for 1 second. There we go. Here we go, right there. I can share it. And just to remind you where we're going. So here's all of the SDGs nicely laid out for you. And which one are we going to pick now? We are going to look at responsible consumption and production. And to do that, we are, as I said, going to go down the Gold Coast, and we're going to have a meeting with Brian. But ahead of that, let's take a look at some of the goals that we talk about in the book, not the challenges now, but to implement 10-year frameworks by 2030 to achieve all these things that the goals bring. One of the things that's really interesting, by the way, is how, and Alexander kind of talked about it, how everything ripples. It's not just about one goal. It's about everything kind of rippling across. And you're going to see that when you meet with our very good friend, Brian. Brian, as you can see there, lived in Malawi for many years. And he's an interesting guy, because not only has he got a great business, which you can see right there, called Franchise Simply, doing amazing things in an industry that needs amazing things to be done, and working with an extraordinary organization making one heck of a difference there in Malawi called Michael Foundation. Brian, it's a thrill as always to connect with you. So tell us about what it's been like for you. Let's do it a slightly different way. What has it been like actually being involved in a project like this, just ahead of you going into talking about empowering impoverished communities? What's it been like being a part of this?
Actually, okay. It's been a real eye-opener, because it's actually focused me on a lot of things, I suppose, that were basic principles that I find I've followed for many years, and sort of incrementally became more aware about different things. I think that's a part of maturing in a number of ways. But with this particular focus, you start to look at things in more detail. It's a funny combination, I think. I mean, I've focused on one particular Sustainable Development Goal, but at the same time, I've managed to see the big picture as well, because of the goals, you start to realise the whole scenario. So as was just mentioned, it's the ripple effect. You have an impact in one area, and it actually incrementally impacts across the pond.
So let's have a look at what you've got in mind for us, Brian. I know you wanted to share some thoughts with us, so you can share on your screen, I think. If you just press share, should happen.
Look, it all started for me, I suppose, a bit of my history. I emigrated to Malawi in Central Africa, a very small country, in 1966. And I spent the best part of 10 years there. I became quite entrepreneurial, ran a number of businesses, employed as many as 150 indigenous local Malawians. But what I realised while I was there very quickly was that going there from the UK, country of 55 million people, Malawi, a very small country, 4 million population. By the time I left, it was 5.3. And I could see the rapid growth in population was not sustainable because they're basically a population there that live by producing their own food, their own crops. So they have their little bit of land. They plant on the edge of the road. They plant anywhere they can find a little bit of soil. By the time that 2017 came around, their population is 17.4 million, just 33% upon what it was 9 years before that. Unsustainable. So I recognised then that for the future to be feasible in that part of the world, you actually needed to approach things differently. So for people to better live and survive, to have good health and good social relationships, they needed to improve life, get out of poverty. And I think in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, you have to start, to my mind, at the beginning, grassroots. And that means responsible consumption and production, which means the people who can't afford to treat the environment in the way it should be need to be given the wealth to be able to do that. So that's my motivation from the point of view of my goal. Now, moving forward, what I recognised was that it's women that drive the world, and women that feed the world and educate the world and provide all the facilities for families and everyone else. So when I was drawing towards retirement in the mid-2000s, I was looking for an organisation that I could support in some way in Malawi that would help women. I found nothing. So what happened was eventually I actually came across an organisation in the UK. I said to them, can I franchise, or can you franchise to me Microloan Foundation? They said, yeah, you can have all of our IP. We'll give you all the help you want. So in 2007, I founded Microloan Foundation Australia. Microloan Foundation Australia provides.
Where's that gone to now, Brian? Like, just aware of timing. What's been the impact of what you've been doing? If we fast forward to today, what's that look like? Okay,
well, let's just fast forward to today, and I'll just show you where we're at.
Goodness, look at that! Look at that! Wow. Now we can see that.
So what we've done over since we started the office in 2009, that's 10 years ago last month, we sent across nearly $300,000, but that's provided around $2 million worth of loans. B1G1's been an incredible supporter of ours. They've actually provided 169,000 impacts, and that's had a huge impact on a vast number of people. I suppose able to do that has allowed us to make a huge difference when it comes to effectively having an impact on the environment. I might just add the number of children we've impacted has been significant as well. But I would like to just add a couple of quick points here. Effectively, the reason that we passionately believe in what we do is because by helping people grow businesses, where we train them, we teach them bookkeeping and so on, it gives them financial independence. It gives them a chance to actually have self-esteem and to go out and become leaders in the community where previously they were suppressed. And by example, that then permeates through the community. So when we get support, we sponsor for our own business here, pay for all the overheads, so that the impact on the ground is really very, very significant. I'm delighted to say that we've attracted Dr. Kasta Tangarasa, who is a Tanzanian by birth, but in Australia she's the founder of the African Women's Council of Australia, and she's also the president of the Australian Council of Government Multicultural Advisory Group. So we've now just recently got someone like that to add clout to what we do. So that essentially, I suppose, is my brief summary. And I'll leave it to you there, Paul.
Brian, thank you very much. No, thank you very much, because whenever we connect, you have this wonderful presence and this wonderful passion about what you do. Thanks. And by the way, you should read Brian's stuff in Legacy. It really is very, very cool. Now, we have something surprising coming up here. It's going to surprise a lot of you. Make sure you really close every other window and focus right here, because there's something that is very, very interesting coming up here. So let's do this. Not that there hasn't been interesting things up until now, of course, but this is sort of upping it just a little bit here. So I just want to share my screen with you. And there we are, back to the global goals again. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to have a look at this one: peace, justice, and strong institutions. And to do this, we're going to meet with an extraordinary person. But first of all, let's have a look at some of the challenges, some of the things that we call out in the book. And you can see some of the issues right here: violence against children and so on. And to bring these things home to us and to look at what's being done and what can be done is someone who lives this every day. And Susie, I could read your introduction right there, or what I could do is play an extraordinary video. Let me play the extraordinary video to introduce who you are and what you stand for.
Hey Susie, my name's Caleb, and this may be a little strange, but I just read your article that was recently published about the young boy in Nepal. And if I really get to the core of it, I used to be homeless, and the biggest but my personal biggest issue with being homeless at that time was that nobody, absolutely nobody, would make eye contact with me. They didn't connect. It was like I was invisible. And to hear that you sat down with a 10-year-old boy in Nepal and actually connected him in with something that could be supportive and some light duties, and there's this amazing sense of heart that comes from that, and I wanted to acknowledge you for it. Life has changed around a lot, but I still remember those times and those days, and the smallest actions we remember. They come to mind at the darkest moments now. And that you had the heart to stop and sit with that boy and have a conversation and then impact and change his life. So, that's all. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful life, ma'am. And it sounds really strange, but thank you. Knowing the people like you exist and actively engage in stuff like that, it helps. So, I wish you peace, and I love your concept of gratitude rather than fear-based laws. So, take care. Yeah, bye.
That is Caleb, and says a lot, doesn't it? Makes you really think, and it really makes us realize just that small impact of just looking somebody in the eye. Susie, you've been doing extraordinary things, and we're really thrilled to have you in Legacy and to have you with us today as well. Susie Hutchison. Hi, Susie.
That just makes me a little bit emotional, Paul, constantly, whenever I see that. It's such a beautiful message. It's, first of all, it's just been so humbling to work on this project, and I'm passionate about all of the global goals, and really goal number 16, which is governance for a peaceful world, was really close to my heart, because I really believe that governance has to come from within. It's really important that we start that for strong institutions. And what, for me, it is really about getting the thoughts and the words and your heart, or your feelings, your emotions, all in order, and your actions. And once you're in that integrity, then we can make big changes. you know, I've been in the global business world, and I have an international travel technology business, and I've been in it for, 25 years. So I've seen a lot of business and done a lot of business with all people all around the world. And what I've found is that people say words and their actions don't support that. And, for a lot of people, it is about the money. These days I work a lot with Indigenous people, and it is really all about a caring community for them. And so there are questions that I take people through. A lot of people come through and it's even down to how people talk to their children or how people talk to their staff. There's no reason to be anything but love anymore. We've really gone beyond having any sort of angry words or any sort of nastiness at all. It is really about peace and love. And, when John Lennon said, give peace a chance, it's really just about being at peace with ourselves and who we are. And once we really, really get that, and once we police ourselves and come into the governance, which gives us really our justice, only then can, I believe, we can really create strong institutions out there in the world. And it's just so honouring to work with B1G1 on all your projects. I love working with you because you are in integrity and you do such amazing things out there, and we all can. It's just that people have this thought of money comes before anything else, but really that giving and the financial reward is really at the end and not at the start.
Susie, it's thank you for that. It's amazing. Sounds like you're about to get on a plane or something, but thank you so much for joining us. And it's amazing the consistency of the authors. And, we think about the global goals as big things, but what you bring home is that little quote that says, how we do anything is how we do everything. And it's just about those little tiny things. And then there's that big ripple. Talking of tiny things with big ripple, I am aware of the fact that Masami has been there very, very quietly there in the background. Masami, let's bring you into the conversation. And thank you for all you do and all you've done to make this possible. So maybe you had some observations and comments ahead of us doing a little poll to see how people are relating to these things. So go ahead, Masami, great to see you.
Well, facilitating the creation of this legacy book has been an extraordinary experience for us all at B1G1 because, this book really shows why we do what we do at B1G1 as well. And, the great thing about this global movement and the community that we are creating is that it's never about just one thing, one big thing, one big solution or strategy. It's really about bringing all different businesses and the people, with different experiences, stories, and desire to make the difference in their own way. When all these individuals and businesses come together, we can truly make the real difference. So that's kind of like a symbol of B1G1. And, the legacy book brought those stories together really in a special way. And then with this book, we were able to connect and also align these business people, and many of them are running small businesses or organizations, but together with the global goals, and the people like Paul Pullman doing the forward, or the president of UN Global Compact in Singapore contributing to one of the chapters, or Director General of Red Cross contributing to another chapter, and so on. So we managed to really bring the importance of small businesses and what we are doing on a day-to-day basis aligned with the global movement and what's happening in the world. So we were extremely proud to be presenting this book, and great news is that it's now trending, but we hope that this impact is going to be a real long-term impact. So I'd like to thank all of the authors who contributed to this book, but also all of you on this call and all the amazing business people who have chosen to take part of the B1G1 global movement. So that's kind of from me, and that's toward also the SDG 17 partnership for the goal.
That sounds like a farewell, but don't you think for one moment that that is a farewell? Because it's not. Because we've got, in fact, more than a farewell here. We've got some really interesting things we want you to do. Let me just share my screen. Masami, thank you for your thoughts. They're really, how shall I say, they're really centering, and it's very important that we do that. So let's do this. If I can find the little clicker that I want, oh, there we go. So I'm going to share my screen. And Masami mentioned Goal 17. And Goal 17, as you may know, is partnership for the goals. There we go, right there. And that is really what B1G1 is about, bringing everything together. But you'll see the word up there that is called poll. And so what I can do right now with some luck, now, by the way, close all those windows because we need you to focus right here. Because one of the things that you didn't, well, Masami, do you want to talk about what happens with every book and what's going to happen just because you were here? It's a great courtesy to the authors that you've met today. Let's talk about what's going to happen, and then we'll put the poll up. Go ahead.
So now you are going to see some project that we shortlisted, and as a result of you being on this call, we will be creating some great collective impact, which have been sponsored by the featured authors on this call. So you can do that. And then another thing is that it's not only about this call, because every copy of the legacy book sold, and let's say it's a paperback, and even though we kind of recommend the digital one more and more now because we don't want to use trees, but when you buy the soft copy book, then we will be actually planting a tree for every copy being sold. And then all the digital book being sold will contribute toward the education for children around the world. So all the proceeds going to these great causes. And Paul, are you ready for the poll? So everybody ready now?
Everybody should be able to see the poll. There you go. All we need you to do, and you can choose up to 3 items. Go for it really, really quickly. You can see the counter up there. You haven't got much time. Jump on that chat and go click, 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 click. And let's see what's happening. Which ones are you choosing? Because Masami is going to choose some. By the way, this morning as we did this, as I said, this is only possible because of the generosity of the authors who have been on this call with you. And so we really have to acknowledge Brian, Alexander, and Susie for making this possible. And Masami, I'm seeing what's happening here. And so many people voted. If you haven't voted yet, come on, vote, 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 vote. It is going to be interesting because Masami is going to choose the top 3. Well, not Masami's going to choose. You are choosing the top 3. Now, I'm not sure whether you can see what's happening, but we are going to give you 5 more seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is it. So, Masami, you need to know, I think, what the top 3. The top 3. Okay, you can see them up on the screen right now. And if I'm not mistaken, clean water is up there as number 1. Looks like planting a tree is number 2. And it looks like education is number 3. Now, that's interesting because that's exactly what happened this morning, right? When the same sort of thing. And by the way, did I mention that this morning someone actually said they would double up, an anonymous donor, if you will, would double up on the giving. And my understanding is that offer is still there. So with that in mind, Masami, let's find out what's happened just as a result of everyone coming to this web event launch of Legacy. What's going to happen?
So let me announce. So by you being on this call, you have together created these impacts. So first of all, 100 trees will be planted, and then 952 days of access to education will be given, and then 20,000 days of access to water will be contributed.
Wow.
these are the impact.
That is astonishing. It really is. Now, Masami, as you know, I'm going to play another, talking of impacts, we've got one more little video for you to watch, because the reality is, Masami, you might want to put those numbers up on the chat whilst we run this video. Now, we'd love to run this video because so often, I mean, yes, today is all about legacy and getting out and spreading the word and so on. But often we think it's about other things, and we tend to forget about the impacts that are possible to be made. So let's just have a look at this, and particularly if you haven't been involved with B1G1 before, I think you'll like this. This speaks to the impact that every single one of us can make. So have a look at this. We call this video, appropriately enough, the impact video. Have a look at this. I think you'll love it.
Today, B1G1 works with close to 3,000 businesses globally. And these businesses are solving different problems and adding value to their customers in their own unique ways. The great news is that we are celebrating over a decade of giving and nearly 200 million giving impacts this year. 200 million giving impacts sounds like an impressive number, so it's easy to overlook the real meaning of this achievement. In the world of B1G1, your giving really matters. We see that each impact is in fact a smile that you create, and these tiny impacts really transform lives around the world.
ខ្ញុំមានអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំចង់និយាយទៅហ្វាគឺធំទូលំទូលាយព្រោះហ្វាផ្លាស់ប្ដូរជីវិតរបស់ខ្ញុំប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំសង្ឃឹមថាខ្ញុំនឹងអាចជួយអ្វីខ្លះដោយហ្វាដូចសប្តាហ៍នេះខ្ញុំអាចជួយបន្តិច
They've changed my life. I'm 100 times better than I was before. I've gained all my family back, I've gained respect, and I've got a good life now.
I would like to say thank you to teacher, B1G1 team, and all my friends. After my mother passed away, nobody supported me to study. I really feel thankful for the scholarship, so I have the chance to study. I promise that I will try to study to achieve my goal, and I will commit to help my family and all the people in my country. Thank you.
Now you'll see some numbers. You know what? I love that, Masami, that last little line there about every second, every day, and in every way. And that gets back to what Alexander said right up front, that this isn't just about leaving a legacy. This is actually about living one every second, every day, and every way, and then leveraging it as well. And how do you leverage it? Through some of the things, for example, that Brian's found his passion in helping those communities in need, or where Susie that spoke so eloquently about, that actually where you find that is right here. Remember, how we do anything is how we do everything. And there's one other thing that we want you to do. Oh, Masami, did you want to make a little comment before I just mentioned the one other thing that we want people to do today?
Well, there was a question about the use of videos. So if you like the video, the impact, then you can go and then find it on the YouTube channel, B1G1's YouTube channel. And also, we've just posted the quick intro video for the legacy book as well, which is not to this version we shared today, because we have a shorter version that you can share online. So you can find that on B1G1's Facebook page. That was just posted today. So
That's wonderful. And I'm just reading all the chat. Thank you so much for because I haven't had a chance to read it as I'm driving this plane here. But wow, there's some amazing comments. I must make sure that we save the chat as well. There we go. So thank you for all of that. One other thing that we want you to do, this is very, very important. And it's so easy. Even if you've already done it, you can do it again. Watch this. Well, and you don't have too much time actually left to do it. Let's do this. Let me just share my screen again and get to this little piece right here. You should see that because you've only got, what was something, about 12 hours or something to jump up onto Amazon and grab the copy of the book, or just nudge the person next to you and say, I'm going to buy you this, or something like that. Whatever it's, that would be leveraging your legacy right there, okay? Susie, I can imagine you're going to have a great plane journey, you know, talking to all the people on the plane, doing an announcement or something. Now, the question... the question is, okay, where do you go? Well, we could give you links, or we could just make it really easy for you. So b1g1.com/legacy is where you go. By the way, one little twist, and you'll find it for your country. One little thing, Amazon is not working exactly the way that it should right now. And so when you go find the Kindle book, if you want to go and find the paperback, they're not linked together for some strange reason. So the best way to find the paperback one is just to go to Amazon and search for Legacy Sustainable. Not just Legacy, because you get a lot of things. Legacy Sustainable, and you'll find that book right there. So that's an appropriate slide right there, because it says, thank you. I often think that the English language should have many more ways of saying thank you. I find it hard to express what it's like to be here in the Singapore, in the B1G1 office, surrounded by great team members, working with people like Masami and so on, and having great members out there doing this work and connecting in a movement. It is just an extraordinary privilege to be able to do this. It really is. So, Masami, did you want to say a quick thank you? Because I'm getting choked up about the importance of all of this. So, go for it.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and then this is one of those initiatives that we work on. So aside from being the facilitator of your giving and creating impacts, we want to make sure that the special message you all have will inspire more businesses and the people around the world to also be part of making that important change. So we look forward to working with many of you with our future initiatives. So please stay tuned. And I'd like to hear from other authors.
Oh, that's a great idea. They're all muted right there. So let's see. First one to unmute themselves would be, let's see, Alexander. Thank you so much for being here and taking that lead position tonight. We deeply appreciate it. What closing thoughts would you have?
Well, again, deeply humbled. That video always makes me cry. Doesn't matter how many times I see it, I'm always sitting here crying when that lady stands, young lady stands up front and says, I didn't think I was going to be able to finish my education, and because of this work, I was, and now I'm able to give back to my family. And so we often think about what is in it for us. And we do that because we all have an ego, but we also have an essence. We have a soul, we have a spirit. And when we listen to our spirit, when we listen to our soul, when we listen to our heart, whatever you call it, doesn't matter. But when we listen to that, we give. And so, I speak from my heart to your heart. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing right after this call.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Alexander. Brian, you followed Alexander before, so you may as well do that again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Alexander. You're very eloquent. So in my humble West London English, I'll say, look, to me, it just reinforces what every now and again with Microloan Foundation I get is the momentum. Things are happening, we're moving. And from my point of view, you just can't stop. I feel I've got an obligation to the people out there in Africa and the rest of the world to do all we can to help. And every little bit every pebble we drop in the water, every ripple we create across the pond will all help to achieve the sustainable goals, but also the objectives that go way beyond that. You know, we're talking about a legacy for everybody, not just for B1G1 or Microloan or Alexander. It's a legacy for the human race, I think.
That's right, Brian. I like. Thank you for that. I love what someone said, that the goals are a pathway for humanity. That means all of us. That's what it means. Susie, thank you for being on whatever device you're on. It looks like it's sort of challenging to walk around things there.
I'm actually on final call, so I'm about to jump onto the plane. So I will leave you with that.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think, you know, one of the interesting things working with the Indigenous Australians so much is that, you know, and they have kept this land alive for 60,000 years, is they have a thought that every decision that you make in this world should take into consideration the next 7 generations. And I think it's a really important thing that we all should do. And what you're doing in B1G1 is setting that up so that people can win. And that's just such a beautiful thing. Not only the businesses win, but the recipients win and the worthy causes win. And we all win. And it's just such a beautiful thing. Thank you. On that note, I'm going to get on a plane and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Remember to say to the person next to you, know a good book, right? Remember to say that. Okay, everybody.
I gave away a couple of copies on the way up from Melbourne, actually, for the people who were sitting beside me that I thought that needed to read it. Yes.
The Susie Show. Susie, thank you so much. It's just awesome. Okay, we have got to go, and more importantly, we don't have planes to catch necessarily, but we need to let you get back to not just to, you know, whatever it is you do, but hopefully you'll get back to it with that new set of eyes as a result of as a result of legacy and getting sort of a look behind to look at the authors, as in Alexander, Brian, and Susie, representing another 52 or another 49 people who've so brilliantly contributed to this brilliant book. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's a privilege, as I said before, to do what we do. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.